Hi, friends. It's Lisa Mason Ziegler coming to you here on Seed Starting Saturday, and thank you so much for joining me. I have a ton of seeds to start today, so I'm really glad all you guys are here. And so I thought before we dive into our sunflower freight train editions, right? I just wanted to share just a few things with you. First off, um, you know, I'm in southeastern Virginia, and we are finally hitting hot weather. It's been in the mid 90s, pretty hot, pretty pretty challenging at times, but it also grows great flowers, great coxcomb, great zinnias. I mean, just the warm season flowers need that heat. And so we're pretty happy about that. So if you're noticing, I have just quite a very beautiful backdrop behind me. And this is the harvest that I did on Thursday. Today is Saturday. And we do our weekly harvests for very different reasons now. We don't sell our flowers. Our flowers are used for education, demonstrations, for marketing, for our courses, for making stuff, all kinds of things. Anyway, this setup behind me is for my show that is broadcast on Fridays at 12 noon Eastern time. And that is the Gardener's Workshop live shopping show. Friends, I go through many of what you see behind me. And are you noticing the bells of Ireland over here? I have never very early spring planted bells before. We've always just fall planted them. I'm doing all this experimenting, and I am sharing on that shopping show, showing blooms, telling you a little bit about them. And I'm kind of like telling the story on this experimenting that I'm doing with some of the cool flowers. So I invite you to that. And guess what? You can go inside the Gardener's Workshop phone app. You can get it on your app store. It's for all phones. Just search Gardener's Workshop Live Shop. And friends, it is tons of blooming fun. You can also view it on Facebook, but it's not nearly as interactive. So I just wanted to say everybody is invited to that. And that's where I like hold the blooms up to the camera. We look at them. You see the colors. I talk a little bit about them. And it's kind of like what people have been asking us for decades now. It's like they need help figuring out which ones they want to grow. Well, friends, this show is going to do that for you. So that's every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, inside our phone app, or you can view it on Facebook. And I have one other announcement to make before we jump into our sunflowers. Y'all, I have a lot of sunflowers to start today. I may or may not be able to do them all with y'all on here. Is that we have a new course that just went live this morning. If you're a flower farmer, ears up. Ellen Frost has made an on-demand course called Preparing to Sell to Florists. And friends, she gives you the groundwork to be a success out of the gate. I'm not kidding you. So check that out over at thegardenersworkshop.com. It's in our online courses. It's about an hour and a half long. It's an on-demand course, meaning you can buy it at any time. It's $50, friends. I am telling you, it'll be the best $50 you have ever spent. If you are trying to sell or you think you're going to target florists, Ellen owns a design studio in Baltimore, Maryland, who has only used locally sourced blooms for the past 15 years in her business. So she she's the perfect customer for us, first off, as flower farmers. But she tells you the other side, what the florists need and have and are facing, and how you can meet that need. And highly recommend it. $50, hour and a half long. It'll change your business and set you up to sell some flowers. So, and I'll tell you, it's been a week. It's been a very long week. It's been a really good week, but a challenging week. We had enrollment last week for Dave's course, which just tuckers me out because I talk for 5 days straight, literally. And so that is all good. We had a banner enrollment. We're so thrilled with that. But anyway, if I may sow some seeds in silence here this morning while I'm sowing. So if you haven't been following along with us for seed starting, you may or may not know that I am a huge fan of sunflowers. Sunflowers are misjudged, underrated, underused in a flower farming business system. Sunflowers literally bought me a John Deere tractor for $32,000 in one season by me doing my weekly successions in volume. And I did that all, of course, when I already had customers who were clamoring to actually buy them. And so sunflowers can float a bouquet business, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a moment, and puff up your orders. So let's just say you're already selling to florists. If you had, 10 bunches of sunflowers to add to your florist orders every week, it just kind of beefs up your income, right? So let me write this down, y'all. I mean, my memory is so bad right now. So I'll talk about the bow. First, let's talk about puffing up florist. The challenges that I faced when I started doing what I'm teaching you guys already, have already started selling to florists. The challenge that I faced was that my florists were like, oh, I can get sunflowers from XYZ, meaning the wholesaler having them shipped in, or some of them even had signed up to receive a standing order of sunflowers, meaning they got a really great bottom line price by saying, all right, send me 5 bunches a week all summer long or all season or whatever. So I faced having to, first off, convince my florist that my sunflowers lasted longer, were far more beautiful, and that they wanted them. And the price was competitive with what they were buying. So I had to overcome that. I overcame that by sending. So those florists that I was selling to every week that weren't on board yet, I would just put whatever number of bunches, maybe up to 3 or 4 bunches a week, maybe just 1 bunch a week in with the rest of their order, just for them to keep seeing them. Keep seeing them, keep trying them, keep seeing that they are far more beautiful than that junk they were getting shipped in. And it worked. My succession planting during our high production years was 1,200 sunflowers a week for 26 weeks a year. That's how I paid for that John Deere tractor. You do the math. Wholesale price can be anywhere from $1.10 to $1.50, depending on your market, where you are and the time of the year. And you can do the math. 1,200 a week times 26 weeks times $1.25, let's just say. And so it is really, really significant. So after I got my florist on board, I had 2 florists that would take 10 to 20 bunches a week. That's a lot of money, in addition to everything else. I mean, literally, I'd have to make individual deliveries because my big full-size extended van couldn't hold it all. So that's how you sell more flowers. Now, for floating a bouquet business, when you start making mixed bouquets, you quickly learn how quickly you run out of everything. Having 1 to 5 sunflowers, depending on if they're the perfect size, about this big or a little bit bigger. If you have, 1 to 5 sunflowers that you can puff up your mixed bouquets with, and you're growing the different type colors like we do to give variation, you can just rock it. And so that's what fed. We did 250 mixed bunches a week to supermarkets. Plus we did farmers markets, and I sold to 23 florists. You can quickly see how we would vacuum up 1,200 stems of sunflowers a week. And I am going to show you how I do that today. So to start with, we start sunflowers. These were started, what does that say on there? The 13th. Bobo started these because I didn't do them last Saturday. So today is the 18th. So these were started 5 days ago. We do them in 128 trays, and you can find the plug trays and all the seed that I'm talking about today, all the sunflower seeds, over on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. So you can see how quickly I'm going to take you through the process today of how we get this done. These guys are on their way from being in our grow room up until now. They're going out that door to sit on our porch out in full-blown sun. I have to protect them from rabbits, because I'll tell you the sad story that the cutest little bunny about this big. Ate like 4 trays of sunflowers last week. I mean, literally ate them down, mowed them down like a mower. So today we are going to be sowing a bunch of different sunflowers. And so I've already made my tape. You can see the tapes on the end. I put the name of the sunflower and the date. We use masking tape and our garden marker. This garden marker holds up to UV rays and moisture and holds on. Literally this morning as I was tearing the old tape off of some of these trays, some of them were from last year in the middle of the spring. I could tell from what varieties were being grown. And so it holds up a long time. So the plug tray is simply just filled with a mix of 50% of any potting soil. Does not need to be seed starting soil, y'all. Any potting soil and 50% finished compost. You can buy that in a bag anywhere. Composted manure, composted mushroom compost, any kind really, really works well. So I fill up our trays and then I go to work. So what am I doing first? All right, so I'm doing, this is, the name has changed. It used to be called Moulin Rouge. Now it's called Rouge Royal. I think it's basically the same thing. It's all about businesses. They changed the hybridizers. So I'm going to turn this down so you can actually see what I'm doing here. So my tray is full of the soil and I've just dumped seeds in my hand. And I am literally just dropping one seed onto the surface of each cell. Now, sunflowers germinate best when they are covered and have darkness. So that means we're going to be pushing these seeds down into the cell, which we're going to do here in just a minute. So after we push them down, if you lean your head over and take a look down one of the cells, you're going to say, oh, shoot, look, I can still see the seed. I need to put some more soil in there. You don't need to do that. So after we push these seeds down into the cell, and I hope y'all notice, I'm going quicker than I ever have before because I'm first off doing one variety to one tray, which in the past we've done that a little bit differently. But I'm trying to show you just how quick this job can be. It needs to be at the top of your game. First job you do in the morning, perhaps one day a week, because if you don't start them, you cannot sell them. So after you push them down in there, and then you're going to look and you're going to notice that you can still see the seed, right? Well, when we take them into the grow room, these trays, and use a watering can with a sprinkler head on it and water these trays well, that's going to wash at the excess soil that's on the side of the cells down on top of the seed. So what I'm saying is you do not need to do any more steps than what you're seeing me do right here and right now as far as planting the seeds and putting soil in. So the bin that we have a big bin out on the carport that's big enough for me to put, or it's bigger than what is needed to put this tray down in the bin, and then I just scoop up soil, push it off any of the excess, and I am then done. All right, so then I'm just taking my fingers, putting them on the seeds, and I'm just pushing them halfway down into the cell. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the planting demonstration. So that bin that I have out on the carport is a pretty big bin, and we have that because we need to mix the potting soil and the compost, right? So it just makes it easier. Literally, Bobo will be dumping in the compost bag, and I'll be putting in the potting soil portion, and we kind of just pour them in and mixing them up, and then she gets a shovel and gives it a little mix. And that's it. So that's it, friends. So there is tray number 1 done. And I'm just going to make a stack here on the floor. All right, here's the next one. The next one is Lemon Aurora, which is another one of our branching. Let me get rid of these. So, we're always trialing seeds. And so I'm often starting lots of something so we can get images and to see how we like it. So again, I'm just dropping one seed. Next, I'm going to do a tray of singles, and I am going to do it a little differently than we have been, and I'll explain all that to you in just a minute here when we get to that. So the trays, after they get through this step, I take them into the grow room. I put them on the grow room floor because I have a drain. You could simply just take them outside. Water them really well. Be sure that the cells are all the way wet, all the way through. And then I pop them up onto a seedling heat mat. When the soil all gets warm evenly, not only does that help the seeds to sprout quicker, it also builds a really strong root system. When people are telling me, my sunflowers are 3 weeks old and I can't, when I go to pull them out of the tray, when you pull on the stem and the stem is like trying to rip off of the roots, that says to me that the root system is just not really either mature or well developed. And if you don't give them the heat that they really like during the sprouting, growing part of this, you cannot get that great system. So I just heard somebody try to get into this door. I know who that is. It's one of the workers here, better known as my brother. 57, 52. Steve's. Y'all stand by. All right, sorry about that. So if you aren't giving your sunflowers the heat that they really like for growing and getting established, they'll have a puny root system, and that's where it becomes really, really evident. So I put this tray up onto a seedling heat mat until 50% of the seeds have actually sprouted, and then I do one of two things. If for some reason it's not hot enough outside, you can pop them under grow lights in a warm room. But what we do, just like the tray I showed you at the start of this broadcast, once they get off the seedling heat mat, which those actually sat under the grow lights for a couple of days for me to get them a little bit bigger before I put them out on the porch. They then go out on the porch in full sun and get treated just like all my other seedlings, watered every morning, protected from rabbits. And they grow there until we plant them out in the garden when they're 2 to 3 weeks old, or when you're able to pull them, right? All right, so we're moving along here. So now I'm going to do a tray of the single stem. The two we just did were branching. And I need to do this tray of our Pro Cut mix. The Pro Cut mix is a mix that we actually make in-house at the Gardener's Workshop. It's all of the Pro Cut colors minus the peach, because peach was not available. And it's just a great way. I recommend to people, making sure I'm putting them in the right trays. I recommend to people that it's always a good idea every now and then to grow a mix, so you can see, are there colors that you're not growing that you just kind of really weren't aware of? Have new colors been added? That often happens in celosias, in mixes. Sometimes a color will show up in the mix and it's like, wait a minute, what color is that? I've never even seen that before. And that's how you kind of stay abreast of it, right? So this is the Pro Cut mix, which has all of the colors in it. And what I'm going to do a little bit different on half of this tray right now is, and I've talked about this before in the past, as Day length definitely affects the size of blooms with sunflowers, even those that say they're day length neutral. Early in the season, when the days are short, or late in the season, the stems can be a little shorter than normal and the blooms can be smaller than normal. But then as the days get longer and it heats up, those blooms, all planted at the same spacing, all of a sudden get bigger. And that's what's happened to us. You can't see the back of that sunflower right there. He's too big, bigger than what I want. So now I know it is time for me to start doing what I'm doing, but now I'm going to be putting 2 sunflower seeds into each cell half of the time, y'all. I never do anything 100% that's different like that. So I'm going to finish half of this tray with 1 sunflower per cell, but then I'm going to do the rest of the tray in 2 per cell. But here's the thing, listen up, y'all. You can't just follow part of my instructions if you want to have the same result. You have to do all of it. These double sunflower cells don't ever get thinned or separated, and they get planted at the same spacing as the singles, meaning, so our sunflowers, I hadn't gotten to that part yet, had I, in my chat here. Single stem sunflowers, this is not true for branchers, y'all. Single stem sunflowers get planted here on my farm into 30-inch bed, 30 inches wide, and I put 5 rows, used to do 4, now we've learned 5 rows does just as well. 5 rows evenly spaced across the bed, and in the row, they're spaced 6 inches apart, okay? So that means that these double trays, these double planted cells, will get planted at that very same spacing. You're not going to put them further apart. That's defeating the whole purpose of this, right? So that way, even though the days are getting longer, which naturally just make the blooms bigger, spacing them even closer together gives you smaller size. And I always want to be sure that I want that small 3-inch or so sunflower, because friends, that's the best size for bouquets, and your commercial customers will love them. Will love them. They don't even see them as sunflowers. They think there's some new, different, long-lasting daisy, because you know sunflowers last longer than so many other flowers that are daisy-like, right? Like zinnias. So I'm almost finished this one. I'm putting 2 seeds per cell. I got 1 more row to go. And then I'm going to go back to doing singles, because all the rest of these are test. Sorry, y'all. Forgot to put you down, didn't I? Not that you can, guess you can see it. And see, some of the pro-cut seeds are striped and some are black. Oh, there's a little spider. And some are black oil. So you can see that's the mix. That's why they're different. So I am now going to push those down in without smashing my spider. I don't know if y'all know it or not, but spiders are some of the most ferocious, best, bad bug eaters. They eat nothing but other bugs, y'all. You want spiders in your garden, in your grow room. I have several spiders in my grow room. So I'm just pushing these down, and I'm not paying attention if I'm smashing the 2 sunflowers on top of each other. It really just does not matter. So these are the single ones. And you know, that's the method to a lot of my madness things that I do, is I don't do anything 100% if I'm changing stuff up. I typically do it 50-50, and that way I still have it the old way as well as the new way. And that's kind of the way I roll, friends. All right, so there's another one done. 3 down, y'all. Maybe I can do this. So let's talk about the rest of the system of starting the sunflowers. And I really need to get some new trays, y'all. Some of these are 3 years old and they are showing their age. All right, so let's just go back to the beginning and just review. You plant these guys. We're going to take them in the grow room and water them in using a sprinkler head on my watering can. Water them in well. They're going to be popped up onto a Seedling Heat Mat. They're going to stay on the Seedling Heat Mat until 50% of the seeds show signs of life. That means if they're just cracking open, that's considered sprouting. You're going to either move them outdoors into full blasted sun if it's warm enough outside, protect them from varmints, and you're going to treat them just like you do all your other seedlings. Water them every morning, and we are going to plant them out into the garden when they're 2 to 3 weeks old. When you pull on the stem and the whole cell comes up, that is when it's time to plant them. We plant into 30-inch wide beds. My tractor actually makes that size bed, 30-inch wide beds, and we are going to plant into beds that have already had the dry organic fertilizer. You can find it on my store, the same that I use, and read about it. We apply it at a pound. That's not right. The dosing's on there. I do it in bigger doses. It's like 3 cups to 100 square feet or something. Anyway, it's dry organic fertilizer has been added. We do not lay down Bio 360. We do what you need to know is most of the sunflowers that we grow, which are the Pro Cut series, are the weekly sunflowers. All these branchers that I'm doing now are not part of our weekly succession. It is only the Pro Cut single stems that we plant weekly. I should have pointed that out. Sorry. And when we plant them into the garden, because they are 55 to 60 days from seed to bloom, a third of their life is already over when they are planted out in the garden. So that means a third of their life is done. It's just for us a waste of resources to put film down. So we plant them into open beds without irrigation. We hand water them in. And because we get so much rain here in southeastern Virginia, I mean like an inch a week usually, we don't irrigate them. But if that's not true for you, then you need to irrigate them. Sunflowers appreciate water and fertility. It just helps to keep them growing and makes the bloom head, the blooms get bigger, all the same things it does for all flowers, right? So then we also bear away from our normal of netting sunflowers. Sunflowers 100% benefit from netting. Which one is this? But we grow so darn many of them and plant them so often. We just take the calculated risk. And these are so little. These are some branchers that I'm testing that I'll talk about them the day that I decide if we're going to have them. These are so tiny. I bet the finches love these guys. Whoops. So we plant into a bed that's been prepared with dry fertilizer. We hand water them in, and we do not net them. And we basically know that we always do. There's some out in the garden right now that haven't gotten cut because we had a rainstorm and the stems are crooked as all get out. If they would have just been held upright by netting, they'd have been cuttable. So if you are a small grower and you're not doing a lot of volume, I would say it's even more important for you to support your sunflowers so you don't lose them, right? And that, friends, is how we plant sunflowers. Sunflowers, I would rather dump a bunch of sunflowers in the compost heap than to have to tell my customers I don't have sunflowers this week. Planting the same variety in the same color each week is what keeps you on track, because even colors can vary, can take several days. I was talking about that on the Shop and Show Friday with the zinnias. All of our Benary's giants were started and planted at the same time, but it's so interesting how we had bigger bunches of some colors to show because some of the others were just a little, and they're all in the same bed, or just a little bit slower. So that happens in all flowers. So by planting at least one variety in one color consistently each week means that you will never fall off. And I'll tell you what my go-to, when we were in high production, I only planted the orange Pro Cut each week. I mean, when you got 1,200 a week, you do not have time to be figuring out, well, which one is this? Is this orange or brilliance or lemon or whatever? We found that our customers bought the same color every single week after week after week. It was frankly our own need to feel like we were planting different variety, like we felt like we needed to have more diversity to offer, but the reality was, and that's it right there. That's the orange Pro Cut that's facing us right there. That is the classic sunflower. It's got the stiffest neck. For simplicity, because you'll lose your mind, literally lose your mind trying, because of course you cut sunflowers before they're open, friends. And even though they might be marked out in the garden, how do you mark them in the bucket? And how do you keep them separate? It is the biggest pain in the neck, which brings me to another topic I wanted to talk about. Sticking to a few crops and growing more of those. And I can tell you this from right now from firsthand experience, because we are trialing so many different flowers right now and different colors and all that. It is a major pain in the neck having to mark in the garden, having to then harvest and maintain the marking for integrity when you get in here. It is challenging. It's a big job. It's very confusing. And the more different crops, and if you're selling commercially and you need to know at least the color, you don't need to know the name of the variety, but you need to know what color you've got to sell, right? I'm telling you, it gets really complicated really, really quick. And that's one of the reasons that, I'm sure that people get a little tired of hearing me talk about it sometimes. I preach in my course about starting out with staying focused on a few varieties that you can sell week after week after week, that will be in demand, that will be useful. And because you have no idea how fast and how complicated this is all going to get. I'll bend y'all down again. So I'm going to continue on. These are more branching test sunflowers. Test 4. See, I don't even know the name, so I can't even tell you. The other thing I wanted to mention here today while I was doing this is helping me so much, y'all, to get these all planted, because I can tell you, I have other things that I should and could be doing in life, not necessarily for farming. And I would not be doing this if it were not for you guys. So I really appreciate you joining me here. Double. I just want to remind everybody once again about succession planting. There's another reason that no one really thinks about why it is so darn important, because people message me all the time. I just don't really, they'll say things like, I don't think it's really necessary to succession plant. More power to you. Go for it. But here's another reason why I succession plant. Pest pressure. You want to know what's landed on my farm in the last week? Japanese beetles. And they are decimating certain crops that are at certain stages. But other crops of the same flower that are just coming along, they aren't messing with, because they don't have buds with. And by the time those grow up and start blooming, guess what? The Japanese beetle population will be at least decimated, because I walk around with a soapy water bucket every single morning and go to the hot spots, because every one I take out is 20 less next year. That's the only thing I do that for. And I also wanted to say I've also been squishing leaf-footed bugs, which are in the, I don't know what happened to this end of the tray. The soil's not as high. I must have spilt it. The leaf-footed bugs, which are in the stink bug family, they are so bad, and they really love straw flowers. We've got a posse of them, and I have been squish it before I actually start my Japanese beetle patrol. I go over to the straw flowers with a pair of gloves on, and I just snatch them and squeeze them. And let me just tell you, they sting. They'll bite. You got to be quick. And I have yet to be stung. I probably shouldn't have said that. But I just snatch them and squish them. You need to look it up. The leaf-footed bug. Bad guy. He causes all kinds of distortion in flowers, brings diseases with him. Anyway, I want to go on record here. If I ever go missing, those are the guys that have me. They've taken me. They are in packs. They are very aggressive. Now, when they hear me coming to the straw flower patch, literally they start trying to intimidate me, kind of like bumblebees do, you know, they kind of bump me. So I just had this little story unroll in my head yesterday of, you know, about 20 of those guys coming and picking me up and carrying my butt off because I have extinguished so many of them. So before I do my Japanese beetle walk, that's what I do. All right. Oh, I got to push these in. I'm losing track. So I'm kicking butt here, y'all. We'll have 8 trays done, even with me going down all these rabbit holes in less than 45 minutes, I think. So I walk around with one of Tucker's small stainless steel water buckets that I put dish liquid in. I fill it only about this full, get it all sudsy. That coats the beetles so they can't climb out once you get them in there. And I go to the hot spots, zinnias, marigolds, solidago, the goldenrod, and where else do I go? Oh, there's a Calla Lily on my porch that was one of my leftovers from my days of growing calla lilies with Dave Dowling. And that sucker continues. It's in a huge pot. That sucker comes back every year, and I get about 15 stems off of it. Anyway, it's like a Japanese beetle magnet. I mean, that's what got me started this morning. I walked over and one tap, and I bet I got 20 of them. What is this? Number 5. Ruh-roh, y'all. I think I screwed up. No? All right. Stand by, y'all. I did. I mislabeled one. I think it was the very first. All right. Wait a minute. We have to bear with me. I just figured it out. I just screwed this up. So I got to swap these two. Fortunately, they're so different that I'll be able to figure this out. That's what's from a long week, y'all, and talking and doing work at the same time. So the Japanese beetles, so succession planting really, really can help you out with that also. Can save you if something gets decimated. If you have another crop coming on, you don't feel quite so bad about it. So I walk around with this soapy water bucket first thing in the morning. Sometimes I do it when, first thing in the morning, they're still they haven't gotten busy. They haven't gotten flying around and moving. And I just walk up and put my bucket up under the bloom or whatever they are and tap it, and their instant reaction is to drop, and they just drop right into the bucket. And then here's an insider tip. My husband, who is a plumber, said we can flush them. And he said, even if you have a septic tank. So the soapy water it does coat them and ultimately kill them. But I just fill the bucket up and bring it in and flush them. And I don't even have to see them because they're under the suds, right? But they are busy right now. Marigolds are a real trap crop for Japanese beetles. They love them. You'll walk up to the blooms and you'll see like 20 butts. All you'll see is the tips of their butts sticking up, and they are digging for gold in there, y'all. And I just walk over and turn that bloom on its side and tap it, and they all pull out and drop right into the bucket. And that way you don't have to fuss quite as much. And here's a very interesting phenomena that I'll share. So back, a lot of our pathways are leafed. So, you can like hear me coming. I sound like the giant coming. That's what's wrong with the straw flowers. Those leaf-footed bugs hear me long before I get there. But anyway, the Japanese beetles, just like those leaf-footed bugs, after a few days of me doing what I'm doing, they recognize when I'm coming, and the Japanese beetles will start dropping before I get to them. Nature's amazing, y'all. So anyway, so there's not many bugs that I do that kind of stuff for. I'm just thinking to myself, there's 3 bugs that I can think of right now that I patrol and do something about. Squash bug eggs, which I roll packing tape inside out around my hand so I'm sticky like dog hair roller thing, and go around and patrol for squash bug eggs, and you can make a significant dent in your squash bug population. And so squash bugs, Japanese beetles, and the leaf bugs. And of course, I will snatch up a stink bug if I see one. And friends, I'm telling you, I just did a podcast interview. I'm not sure if it's out yet or not, with Jessica Walliser. She has written many books about beneficial insects, and best books ever. She wrote Good Bug, Bad Bug, Attracting Beneficial Bugs to Your Garden. This one is Attracting Beneficial Bugs to Your Garden, and with plantings. And Rhonda and I just interviewed her, and you've got to get that book. It's based on science, and it really tells you if you have this, you can plant this, and it attracts their predators, that type of thing. Totally and completely awesome. And I can tell you that I could really get all deep into bugs. We are definitely bug huggers, not because we love bugs. We love what bugs do for us. So, all right, y'all, this is the last tray. We have nailed it. 8 trays here this morning. And this is a tray that I really shouldn't have used. It has fallen to pieces. So succession planting isn't just for constant big blooms and weather events making a problem. It is about pest pressure potentially. And it's like your insurance policy. I'm working on a really big project now this summer, and will be in the spring. And we are doing so much succession planting to have backup plans, because let me tell you something, friends. If you are counting on a crop for whatever reason, and something happens to it, you are dead in the water, right? So that strategy of doing this, and as soon as I am done, I think I'm actually going to make the 45-minute marker, y'all, if I can just keep moving here. I will then answer your questions. My book, Vegetables Love, what the heck is that? Piece of paper or something. My book, Vegetables Love Flowers, which, by the way, friends, is really about a 3-season cutting garden, it's not really about growing vegetables. It's how vegetables benefit from the presence of flowers in the garden. And you do that with a cutting garden and succession planting. It can really change. And it also is about the way that I farm, the method. I don't use pesticides, even organics, setting up the garden for the lowest maintenance. Also has a lot of good, great conditioning information in there. All right, y'all, wait a minute. I'm trying to just get this finished so we can be done. I have 1 minute to press these in, and then I'm going to get to your questions. I just scattered sunflowers on the ground. So I'm pushing these in. Now, this whole stack of trays, after we're done here, after I'm off, I'll carry them into the grow room. I will dominate the heat mat. See, Bobo didn't start seeds Thursday because she wasn't here. So the heat mat is wide open, is why I really decided to do this. 20 seconds, y'all. Can y'all tell I'm a little bit competitive? All right. Even with talking, exactly 11:45. All right, friends. Let me. All right. All right. Oh, there you go. Jess says it's on the 25th. Sorry, y'all, that dusty soil. Y'all, there is a Japanese beetle on my window screen. Do you know how hard it is for me not to go out there and snatch his butt up? Sorry. All right. Let's take a look at these questions. All right. Hello, everybody. I really got a tickle. We love all the info. We are here in. So this is, thanks, Lisa. We love all the info. We are here in Hempstead, North Carolina. Ooh, East Coaster. Well, hello, Germany. Westfield, New York. Gracious, y'all. And we have some snowbirds that are down in Florida. And you know, it's so funny. When I was younger, I am now 61. When I was 40, I can remember because I have a lot of snowbirds in our midst family. It's like, why would anybody do that? Totally get it now. Get out of winter and get down to where it's warm. So let's see what Jennifer has to say. I did the early bird sunflowers 6 weeks before my last frosty and got my first blooms this week. I don't even have cool flowers blooming yet, but I have the cutest tiny pro cuts. You know, some people have reported, it just really depends on where you are in the hemisphere about the day length and the nutrition, the full sun, the moisture, the heat, how much covering did you do? But I'm telling you, I'll just tell you this really quick story. Years ago, let's see, golly day, it was before we even owned this property next door. So it's at least 10 years ago. I can remember that I planted sunflowers really late in the fall. That can happen again in late fall. As the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting cooler. Back then, I didn't use row cover, though. I can remember I had all these sunflowers that I had planted because I was really counting on them. We were doing big farmers markets back then. And I can remember they started to bloom and they were like this big. And I thought, crap, what am I going to do? What am I going to have to sell to my florist? What am I going to do? So that's when I started here's a tip, started my system of I pretty much set the price of my wholesale bunches at the beginning of the season and do everything in my power to not change them throughout the season. That allows your customers to plan, to know, less problems. So when something like that would happen, I'm just going to pull a rabbit. This is not true. Let's just say that a bunch, and I sold sunflowers in bunches of 10. Let's just say I was wholesaling sunflowers for $15, right? So that'd be $1.50 a stem. So let's just say that's what I was doing. I wouldn't change that $15 price when I all of a sudden got these small instead of these bigger ones. I would just put more stems into the bunch. And so my availability list that always went to my customers always had on the description, it would say sunflowers, 10 to 15 stems per bunch or 10 to 17 stems. And I would always then say this week's 10. Then when those times came that I had small ones, I would change that number to represent how many is in a bunch. And my florists knew what that meant. They knew that there was more stems, but they were smaller. And guess what, friends? They preferred the smallest ones. I was so amazed. I'll tell you, I had one, I called him my stomach ache florist. Just never knew if he was going to be happy. I mean, I think he was bipolar, perhaps. You know what I mean? It was like I could never predict his response. He was kind of crazy. Anyway, I dropped off his order and he was not there, which is not normally the case. And I hated leaving them there without him seeing them. But I left them. And before I even got back here to the farm from my delivery route, he had already called and left a message. He wanted more the next day. Hey, you got 100 more of those tiny little whatever they are. He didn't even know they were sunflowers. So tiny is good. Oh my goodness. We have someone from India. Good gracious, what time of day is it there? So Sarah says, I saw sad bunches of sunflowers at Costco for $10. How many are usually in a bunch? Totally depends on you. But because so often, and here's another niche tip, because so often the sunflowers you see being shipped in are bigger, they typically sell them in 5s. I did 10s because I grow my sunflowers smaller. I grow them the size that arrangers want them to be to make them more useful. But that is definitely a personal choice. So this is hi from Australia. Looking forward to doing Dave's course and your course soon after. Hey, welcome from down under. We have so many followers and students in Australia. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Oh my gosh. Dana, same here. Lost 240 sunflowers to a rabbit last week. And you aren't even going to believe this. So I had meetings or something. So Bobo texted me. She was here working and said, hey, there's a little baby, cute little rabbit. So cute. They took pictures of him that's eating the sunflowers. I said, okay, put a barrier up. Use either crates. I make a little fence around the sunflower trays out of bulb crates. You just put them up on their side so they can't hop in. Or I cover them with row cover and tuck it in. Well, she kind of did a combination of those two things that wasn't real effective. And listen to this. The little baby bunny got in and couldn't bloom and get out. He ate so many sunflowers, he couldn't get out. Anyway, you got to take it with a stride, folks. So that's why I'm starting so many more sunflowers today. All right. So good morning, lady is a Facebook user. That must be my friend Mark. I bet you. That's what he always says to me. But if you don't register through StreamYard, I think there's a way to do that. Jesse probably put it over there. It won't let us see your name. All right. Sandy. Thank you, Lisa. I have 4 trays of 128 planted out now. Some should be blooming this week. Zone 5B. I would never have thought to start them early without your teaching and encouragement. You know, friends, I was always looking to post to just really push the limits of stuff that I knew my customers wanted more of. You know what I mean? It's like sunflowers are inexpensive, easy to grow, and my customers wanted them every week. I'm like, all right, let's figure this out, right? So glad, Sandy, that is working for you. Excuse me, please. What was the spacing for the branching types? No, I did not say the branching type spacing because I'm experimenting with that. I don't really grow branching, but I would tell you the branching would probably be 2 rows to a 30-inch wide bed and 6 inches apart in the row. And I also pinch 50% of the branchers once they're about this tall, pinch them back to 4 leaves. And yeah, but I'll know more about that after I can get some in the ground. Talk to the rabbit, please. You know, we'll do it. So Facebook user, yes, flower netting is a must for small growers. So I think that people think it's the exact opposite. The smaller the grower you are, the smaller space you have available to you. First off, that's the best situation to be in. I can squeeze more out of a 1/4 acre than I can out of a 1/2 acre. That doesn't make sense to most people. You're more efficient. You're doing things quicker. You can get to stuff more. You squeeze things in. You push the limits. Guess what? It's less work to take care of a 1/4 acre than it is a 1/2. So when you have small space, you have to ensure that what you plant really does grow. So flower support netting is amazing. And wait a minute, y'all. Where was I? There. I'm looking for a question. Thank you. That Japanese beetle is still there. I think his feet are probably stuck. I'll get him as soon as I get off here. The flowers behind you are beautiful. I'm new here. Do you grow them? So The dream to farm. You have come to the right place, my friend. This is my weekly harvest. I've been a commercial cut flower farmer for the last 2.5 decades. Last year was our farewell season of selling. I now focus primarily on education, demonstrations, writing books, making online courses to help other people do what you see back here. From the home gardener, lover of flowers, right up to budding flower farmers. All that you see up here was cut, and you can see it every week on my live shopping show that happens on Fridays at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and you can view it within my phone app. It's the Gardener's Workshop live shop. You can just go to your app store, search Gardener's Workshop live shop, download the app, and then join. You can go back and watch previous shows. I'm sorry to say that if you're not in this country, we only ship to the lower 48 states. But you can go back and watch the previous shopping shows, and you can shop through there. That's a whole different arm of the Gardener's Workshop. We have special offers over there that are live and good from the time of the live show and expire the next morning. And so this coming Friday, you could join us live, or you could watch it later in the day and take advantage of those specials. Sometimes it's a new product. Sometimes it's a bundle of products. Sometimes it's free shipping. Sometimes it's reduced shipping. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. So all of these flowers, I'll show you all this, will be joining those flowers. Those are being dried, and that's what happens to many of these. A lot of them, we made a bunch of bouquets for a special something yesterday, and we have places for these flowers to go. We just are not selling them anymore. But every Friday, you can progress and watch how my harvest goes. Lisa, does it matter which way you plant the sunflower seed, pointy side, up or down? It does not, Susan, at all. Question. Do you fertilize all your flowers once planted in the field? Jessica asks. So, all right, we have 3 minutes left. I'll try to answer this and get to one more. We use, while plants are in the tray or in the soil block, they get weekly fertilization. When I do my watering chores, I just add Neptune's Harvest, fish, and seaweed to the watering can, so it's no more work. That happens every Monday. The field, when we prepare our beds, we add the dry organic fertilizer, which you can also find at thegardenersworkshop.com. Just go to our store. The same that we use here on our farm is what we package and make available to you. So you can find that there. Lisa, I also did early sunflowers 3 weeks before only 3 weeks before my last frost. Didn't even cover them and have been cutting them for a couple of weeks. You know, y'all, I mean, you just find out how you just have to do it for it to happen, right? Question. How do you catch those leaf-footeds? They fly at me. Also, do you think the no-scento marigolds? Also, first off, I have not grown the no-scentos. This is my first year, but I have several flower farming friends that adore them. We have some already on the verge of blooming, and they appear to actually have no scent. You know, it's the foliage that smells, not the flowers. And so I'm in love with them. So the leaf-footed bugs, you have to come up on them on the plant. You can't catch them flying. So that's why, you know, doing it early in the morning where they're kind of like snoozing, I guess. And I just hawkeye them. I see them underneath flowers, and I will even sacrifice a flower to catch them. I just grab it and squeeze the leaf, squeeze whatever I have to do. And it is a bonus if you catch them mating. You get 2 plus all the babies they would have made in one squish. I mean, this is what happens to you, y'all, when you become a full-time flower farmer. So the leaf-footed bugs, the Japanese beetles, have to be on the plant for me to catch them, you know? So you have to really, as far as I know, yes, the beetles are going to like the no-scentos just as much as the rest of them. So Jessica is posting all of the links for the shop and show, how to register if you're on Facebook to be a StreamYard person, which means that it'll let Facebook tell us who you are. And then whatever links I've mentioned. Hi, Lisa. You're such a wealth of information. Can you share how many of each seed you are starting to show that amount of blooms at your weekly sale online? Gabrielle, I really don't track that. It's more about me seeing how much space I have to plant and filling it up over and over and over again. And as Dave Dowling says, we plant all that we can plant and then have more than we think we can sell, and then we sell it all. So that is not really the way it works for me. And I know there are people that want to know that information, because the other thing is that your skill as a grower 100% affects what production you get. Y'all want to know how many stems I get off a snapdragon that's planted in the fall? 15 to 18 killer stems. I know people that get 3, same variety. It's all about the planting when you do it. Friends, timing is everything. All right, y'all, I'm going to take, I have one more comment to look at and read, and we're done. We have rain for the next week, temps 46 to 68. So do I hold off planting my sunflowers and zinnia starts? She's in Alberta, zone 3. I was going to guess you were in the Pacific Northwest. So say hello to the world.
Hello. I used up all the nails, so I'm done.
Okay, I'll be back. I'll be right out. So that was my brother, the builder, who's building a little project here. So I would say plant your sunflowers, but I'd hold off on my zinnias and let it get just a little bit warmer, but I would definitely hoop and cover. So friends, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me here. See me on the shopping show. Check me out on social media. Head on over to the Gardener's Workshop. And friends, the Field and Garden podcast is packed. I did a good one this morning that'll be out on Tuesday. All right, folks, till we meet again, let me go talk to my builder brother. Ciao.